Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first ever public Frubana Priam Talks. Little bit of context here. Thank you all for being here, the guests, everyone at home joining us, and our exclusive audience that's here at the office. I would like to welcome you all and say thank you for your time. I have some reminders here, so just so we can have everything going smoothly throughout the day. For those here, please keep social distancing and keep your masks on. We have been tested, so we're not going to be wearing a mask, but we're trying to do everything as safe as possible. For the remote crew, everyone at home, please interact through the comments on YouTube, and we also have a Slidos where you can ask away your doubts and questions. We're going to have some Q&A time at the end. And apart from that, some context on the event. PM Talks is actually an event we held here at Frubana weekly, where we discuss where we've done wrong, what we've done wrong. We read articles, we discuss methodologies, and always trying to be better at our jobs, and also try to develop this culture of product-driven companies. And as we see the ecosystem of startups in LATAM is growing, we feel like it's our part to open this to the community as a whole, and so we can have better discussions and more intelligent discussions. And we're doing this throughout the year, but this first one is the special one. We have these amazing guests here with us today. Thank you so much, Akemi, Guto, and Farina, for your time. The idea here is so we can share a little bit and we can have all of this that we've been doing at home with the rest of the community and with you guys. So a little introductions on our guests. Akemi Rusi, thank you so much for being here. Akemi has been a group product leader for almost 10 years now, and she's been through a lot. Like, she's been through big banks and smaller companies and startups, and now she's going through this amazing journey of entrepreneurship. And, well, she serves, and she's a yoga teacher, and I'm her biggest fan. We do have also here Guto. Guto has been, I think, one of the first ones in product here in Brazil, has been through all of the stages in a company from when we didn't have much funding up to this point where now he's an advisor for Monashis for all these different companies, and he's out there helping us out, helping all of us grow, and helping the environment and the community grow. We also have Farina here. Some of you may know him from his contents, from his podcast, from Product Camp. He's also one of the biggest names in product in Brazil right now. So, guys, very happy to have you here. And last but not least, I do have André Sarmiento, or as we call him, SARMS. He's our CPO here at Frubana. He's obsessed with processes and making things very right. And yeah, that's what I can say about him. He's great. He's also my boss. And so, well, everyone, thank you so much for being here. And we'd love to start the discussion. We heard a little bit of the community to understand what are the biggest issues we would like to discuss right now. And we see there are a few that are super important, and we'd love to hear all of you on these ones. So, first of all, our ecosystem is growing in LATAM, and we have all these different startups growing. And we know by now that it's very different from when a startup is at its early stage to when we're growing and to our growth stage, and when you start getting serious and rounds of investments, things change. And so we would love to hear a little bit about what changes and how can we prepare for it. And you've all been through all of this before, but we'd love to hear a little bit about Guto, if we can start with this one. What's the difference? Like, what changes from an early stage when you have no funding to when you're growing and we have all of these investors with us? And if you could talk a little bit about that one, that would be great.
For sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation to be here. It's a real pleasure to see an event like this from Frubana. It's a great partner for Munchies. So I think what changes is, I'm hearing a bit of echo, but okay. What changes is, in the beginning, in the early stages, usually the product leader is one of the founders. One of the founders is, or more than one, but usually one takes point on product in that very early stage when there's no product market fit. They might bring in somebody to help on the product team. It might be somebody that doesn't even have a product in their title, but they're doing product work. As the company matures, gets funding, grows, then they hire their first product manager, which could be a head of product or could be a product manager focusing on a specific part of the solution, the problems, and helping the founder. So that there's usually a more senior person comes to the team after the company reaches a Series A, Series B, or right before. But that's where the operation already starts to get more structured. You have the first senior product people, and then that's where you start having the organization more structured around tribes and squads and all of that. And then you need product people to focus on it. So, and then from that point on, it becomes multiplication of that. More senior people, a lot of people coming from other areas of the company that's starting in product. So the other thing in the ecosystem is that it's still information. I think we've come a long way, but there's still a lot of opportunity for people to join into the product career and then join from the beginning of one of these great companies that are being built in Latin America now.
Yeah, and interesting because as I hear you talk, I relate it with a lot that's been going on at Frubana. I see a lot of people from other areas growing into product, and also we started hiring now like head positions and director positions that we didn't have. So if you could please tell us a little bit how has it been, because you've been here since the beginning.
Letty, thank you so much. This is super exciting to be here, and thank you for hosting and organizing all of this. So let me tell you a little bit about Frubana. What I think there's a skill that you need in Frubana that we haven't found in other places, that is basically managing technology for physical operations. There are a lot of technology companies that are focused on digital operations, financial operations, etc. And when we look at the situation here, that everything is physical in Frubana, we're distributing food to restaurants and we're trying to get there on time and with exactly what people ordered. So our evolution has been from moving very fast and building technology that was very quick iteration to now maturing to a point that we have 8 cities, 20 warehouses, probably 900 trucks running around Latin America every single day. So before we could afford little mistakes, because it was part of learning, it was part of the technology we use. And then we quickly realized that at this scale that we have right now, if we have one little bug, if we have one little problem, it just explodes everywhere. So when you have physical operations, you need to be incredibly detailed at the time of scaling the technology, not at the time of developing. At the time of developing, I think our product managers are learning really quickly, they're iterating really quickly, but it's at the time of scaling that we need to be super careful. And I think that's a core skill that we've acquired recently in Frubana for our product operations as we scale not only the organization and we have directors and we have more people, but it's that point about being super careful, and then the reward is that we see the impact every day. So every day that technology works, we have thousands of people that actually benefited, that operations went smoothly, that everything worked basically as we promised to our customers, and the reward is amazing.
And what I'm thinking is that doesn't only happen to us. I'm thinking this happens multiple in various companies, and that's exactly why we're opening a space so we can discuss and learn. But Farina, I mean, you've been a part of everyone's scaling of multiple companies at this stage, and I would love to hear a little bit about what you've learned so far. Now, share with us, please.
Sure. I can hear myself. Sorry. Okay, now I don't. The first thing that changes usually is that you transition from the founder's idea to the founder's vision. So when you're starting a company, you're starting around some idea that the founders had and they want to validate, and usually they reach product market fit because it was a very good idea. Usually founders have great product sense, the successful founders at least. And then their idea well, it's like a fruit that's running out of juice, right? So you need to come up with other fruits in order to do, let's say, a vitamin. So, and that's when you start needing product people, because product people usually will come up with new ideas, new value propositions that will be around this the central idea that the founders had at first. So this is a transition not only for product people, but also for founders, because they need to get used to the fact that they are not the ones coming up with ideas anymore. They could be participating, but they're not. It's not around them anymore. Now, what they should do, what they must do, is come up with a product vision, which is something bolder than a first idea, and this changes a lot for product people too, because usually the first product people or the first 3 product person in a company, they are responsible for somehow translating the vision, which is, it could be a business vision, not only a product vision, but a company vision, translating this into a product strategy, translating this into what are the main bets that we should do right now in order to fulfill this vision. So it's quite a challenge. And of course, you have to somehow define standards. I don't like tight frameworks, but at least a few standards on how will be the company's approach on product management, so the squads can share knowledge, the squares can avoid overlaps and that kind of stuff. So it's quite a challenge.
Yeah, and listening to you, we had, multiple conversations with everyone, and I was just remembering what Akemi was telling us all about her experience in big companies like in Itaú, and then when they started developing ET, and then after when she moved on to Jinpai, and how the difference from being in a big company and then in a product-led company, from Jinpai to Passei Direto, and now through entrepreneurship, how that changes. So we'd love to hear a little bit about your take on this one, Kemi, because I think you've had an amazing experience.
Okay, so I'm going to start talking about Itaú. So I worked with 3 different products at Itaú, and each of them was like a startup within a larger company. So I could say that once the product vision was created for these startups, and after when we set the goals and the OKRs were defined, and sometimes that took a while and needed many approvals, because as Itaú is like a big bank, there are a lot of hierarchy. That's why it took too long for us to decide that. But once we were defined all of that, we were fast doing the product discovery and development. But before launching anything, and we had to validate everything that was consumer facing, with legal, compliance, information, security, and so on. Mainly because I think all of the regulation that the bank has to follow. But also we had specific times to do all of our releases. So most of them had to be during the night to minimize the effects or problems for the customers. But comparing to Jinpai and Passei Direto, we did not have all of that bureaucracy like Itaú. Both companies value it a lot, documentation such as PRDs, RFCs, but I do not see them like a bureaucracy. Actually, I think in general they helped the product development process. And I think was mainly like that on both companies, Jinpai and also Passei Direto. We defined our vision, and then we started like going down to the product strategy, as Farina just mentioned, and then translating that to the company goals, OKRs, and so on.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we've been discussing, like how important it is that the company being product-led or not, or the vision of the founders, if they're more business-wise or if they're more product-led, how that can influence everything in this growth stage, and actually since the beginning. So about growing pains, because that seems to be the topic. Guys, we know that for sure growing fast, a big part of it is experimenting. But how can we make sure that even as the company grows, we don't lose agility, we don't become slow? And again, I know that, Akemi, you had this experience in a few companies, so we'd love to understand how you've done this before. And yeah, so if you could just tell us a little bit. I think that Jinpai story is so good because everything changed so fast.
The Jinpai story. So actually, at Jinpai 2020, we had to do experimentation really fast, mainly because of the pandemic. So our business wasn't working anymore when the pandemic started. So suddenly all of the gyms were closed, and for those who don't know, the gyms are Jinpai's partners. So mainly our users couldn't use our product anymore. So we did these war rooms, we call it code reds. So all of the areas of the company were involved: product, tech, marketing, legal, sales, operations, and so on. And we came up with like an MVP within 10 days. and we started testing internally with Jinpai's employees, like live classes and virtual classes. Was not like any on-demand classes, because we wanted to make a difference between like the applications that we were partners at the time. So mainly like the commercial team had to go to the gyms and ask them for starting doing like these live classes, and we had to, on the other side, on the consumer part, making like a good experience for our users. So that was so fast, and we started testing internally with Jinpai's employees. And after this quick validation, was like less than a week after we developed it, we started launching in all of the 14 countries we had, and we continued iterating and evolving the product, so on. And after that, we did the same process more or less for personal trainers, and it was also so fast. The thing is, we really needed to just launch like the MVP on the market, and then start iterating and getting feedback from our customers, from our partners, which were like the gyms and also personal trainers. And I think we did that for the whole quarter, but like we launched it in less than a month, both of the experiences.
That must have been a challenge. And what I'm thinking is, well, this recalls with a lot of what we have going on at Frubana. And what I think is really cool, to be honest, is that we do have, well, Sarma's going to tell us a little bit about it, but we do have a way of testing things in a cheap way. And I think that makes us faster and maybe smarter than the other ones, I hope.
Hopefully. Akemi, that's an incredible story. I can't imagine sitting at Jinpai while you see COVID hit and all your gyms are shutting down. That must have been a stressful time, but also a time of experimentation and learning super fast. I mean, in Frubana, we are convinced that this is super important for the success of the business. Regardless of the size that we have, we need to be experimenting all the time, and we need to be experimenting cheap, and we need to be learning really, really fast. So what we've done is every squad led by a product manager has in the team somebody from the prototypes team. What is this prototypes team? Like, most companies don't have this. So aside from an engineering team that is building the robust technology that we deploy so that we don't make mistakes with all our customers at the same time, we have this team called prototyping, and they're primarily a no-code team. So we use technology that is quick to deploy, quick to iterate. In fact, most of the team only codes in Python, and they code like smaller interfaces connecting to APIs or things like that. But in general, what they're doing is they're developing technology in 48 hours to prove a hypothesis that a product manager has. So the mission is that this team is focused in understanding what the business problem is, creating a tool to quickly iterate and test it in the market, and that it seems to work. It kind of gives the impression of delivering the value, and we immediately test. And with that information, we go back to the product manager, we iterate faster, and we're able to deploy technology basically every week. We're able to test one hypothesis, or if we have multiple tests running at the same time, we're able to learn really, really fast. And I feel that as companies grow, we lose that. So it's important to keep the focus on having the team that is responsible for prototyping, having the mentality in every product manager, and basically always keep learning faster and faster and faster.
There's one point though, like we do test very fast, and I think it's in every PMs and every person in product, this idea that we should fail fast and test fast and learn fast. But what about prioritization? Like, what should we test? And I think that's one of the main challenges. And I'm sure Guto has a great experience on this one. He's been advising lots of companies on this one, and especially prioritizing when prioritizing was actually like extremely important, because we didn't have funds. As we were saying, funds now are very abundant, but back then when you started at L7, for instance, it was much more difficult. So we'd love to hear a little about tips, please, on how to prioritize better, because I think that's the goal of every PM here.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, L7, for context, got the first investment in 2011. So it was the very beginning of the venture-backed ecosystem that we're seeing thriving today. So I joke that it was a stage investing, but we only had the first stage. So growth investing, which is that bigger check that when the company is already validated, was very rare and difficult, and we had difficult to access capital. So we had basically a very small product team. In the beginning, it was just me for the first 4 years, 40 engineers, and I was managing all of that. So we had to be Then we added more people, but still, I think today there's 6 product people in Alsete for a site that has 30 million uniques a month. So it's a large scale website marketplace. So we did prioritize testing. Unfortunately, I envy you, Andres, to be able to test every week. But as the company grows and you're successful, then you have to deal with the legacy, and that's a fact. I mean, there's no successful company without legacy code, and we had a lot of that. So we always looked at prioritization from an investor standpoint, like with the concept of optionality. So we would put the options on the table, and we would evaluate which option was the best to do right now, be it a test, a discovery, or even the execution of something that has already been tested. We got a lot of evidence, and we many times couldn't do an actual test, also because to do A/B test, it's important that you're able to isolate the variables and know exactly what you're testing. Many times you can't do that either because it's a complex system. There are many dependencies. It's really hard to isolate. So there are many times when you have to do a leap of faith, so to speak. But you want to control that leap of faith and do a lot of stuff that you control. Like you can test a lot of prototype in front of users, and before even any prototype that would go live. So basically, not to extend this too much because this is definitely a conversation that could go on and on. I think the concept of optionality, always create options, but that you're not developing. Once you're developing, you want to be completely focused. But have a few options on the table and see which one is the best right now, and use that uh, rationale even for testing. Testings are not free. You have to be very conscious about the effort you're putting there in order to make the best result. So we basically, in summary, we treated every test as a product decision, and which one had the highest opportunity cost for us to learn more at that point that would have the highest impact.
Yeah, and listening to you, when you say, well, sometimes you're just going to have to take a leap of faith, how do we know the right leap of faith, and how do we know that everyone is aligned and that the leap of faith means the same to everyone in the company? And I think that has very much to do with leadership and having clear goals. And that's one thing that I think it's very interesting from this career in product management, is that at some point we're going to evolve from managing products to managing people, or no, sometimes you just want to have an specialist career. And that's one thing that we're learning at Frubana, and I'm learning myself, but what changes when we're changing from managing product to managing people? What are soft skills we should develop, and how do we know if we should go to the managing people or managing products? So I'd love to hear all of you about it. This one, I know that Akemi has a great story of changing from product to people to product to people, and I think that has a lot to do with self-consciousness and learning about yourself as well.
Okay, so my first experience from PM to product leader was at Itaú. So I was working with a marketplace product, and it started growing a lot. So we needed to create a new squad. So I just started interviewing new PMs, and then suddenly we had to interview another 2 more PMs for these 2 squads. And actually I was naturally promoted and became a product leader from the same product I was working already before. So when this was a shift for me, because I was not only worried about the product anymore, but I really needed to, how can I say, help my PMs develop their career as well and understand what they really wanted to do, and starting to do one-on-ones with them, and also helping them make a path for their careers. Besides that, actually I had to develop a higher view, not only from one perspective of the product, but also for a group of small products, not only for the marketplace, but also for the growth and acquisition of that marketplace. But after that experience, I became again a product manager at Jinpai when I left Itaú. And I think I really like it because I was closer to the product again, and I really enjoy managing product. And so I could take some, how can I say, I could just see other types of products that I didn't have before, such like be closer to applications and so on, and mobile. And after that, I became a product leader again at Passei Direto and started to lead like 4 product managers and to be like a product leader for the whole growth tribe. And I think that my responsibility was like even higher, because then I had to, how can I say, check the company vision and the product vision and translate that to the product strategy for our team, for the whole tribe, and also helped my PMs for them to create their own product strategy for each part of the product, for like monetization, acquisition, retention, not only for consumers, but also for the content creators, as Passei Direto is like a two-sided platform. So I think if I could, I don't know if I was so clear, but when we are like PMs, we are managing products, and then when we become like a product leader, we also need to take really care about the people, but also like on a higher level of the product, and not just like a specific part of the product.
And how was it for you? Like, which one would you prefer today?
I really like managing people. I really like helping them develop their careers, and I think it's really nice and interesting to help, how can I say, them understand what they like the most. Like, and I always try to suggest for them to try. Like, I tried, like I was PM, and then I switched it to product leader, and then I became a PM again, and now like I'm a product leader. And I think if you don't try, you'll never know what you like. So when every time like the PMs used to tell me that they wanted to become a product leader, so I just started giving them more responsibility towards that, like just having like a product management intern or like an APM to start helping them also develop their careers and so on. So, and I think
Yeah, and
now I prefer to be a leader.
I think we do have to experiment, and I know that Farina is passionate about building teams and everything, and I'm wondering if you have something to add on this one, on what's the key ingredient and how do you know, besides experimenting, like Akemi was saying. I know there are some people who actually just know that they want to be specialists and keep on going, but what would you say is the key ingredient, Farina? I know you've been talking a lot about building teams, so...
Yeah, I think that every product manager, as a T-shaped professional, has its superpower, right? It could be one or two or three if you're a very skilled professional. And for me, leadership, when you transition into leadership, is you should be able to assess your superpowers and use it in favor of your product leadership. For me, it was communication played a huge part on it, because as Akemi said, I love, Akemi, that you use the word translating, because you literally become a translator for people. So when you're a product manager, you are usually you're dealing with stakeholders from all areas like sales, customer success, finance, and of course the executives. But when you're a product leader, you have to translate into their language. So the same way I had to learn the executive's language. I had to learn financing. I had to learn sales, not because I wanted to become a sales representative or a finance professional, but because I needed to deal with them and to understand what was important for them. So when I transitioned to a product leader, I started studying things that were not related to product, because I wanted to be able to negotiate and to speak in their terms, in their language, in order for them to understand us. I think this is a huge trap for product professionals, because we expect that when we become product leaders, we will start speaking the product language for our stakeholders, for our peers, and for the executives, and suddenly they will understand and they will think, oh, how come we never thought of this before? But this doesn't happen. They don't come to us, we go to them. So translating was a big deal for me. Also, of course, you have, with your own team, you have the challenge of giving context, right? I really don't like the idea that product managers are the ones responsible for all the decisions. I like Noah Wise' vision that when he says that we are responsible for the pace and quality of a decision. What does it mean? It means that if you go too fast, you lose quality. your decision will not be that good. But if you go too slow, of course, you lose timing, you lose time to market. So we are always trying to balance between making a decision fast enough, but not too fast, and making it good. That's how we help teams to succeed. So when you transition into a leader, it doubles the challenge, because now you have to give context to your team in order for them to give context to their team, so they can reach a quality decision at a proper time. So that was hard, because usually I used to wanted to rush things, because usually you have a lot of product sense when you're seeing, when you're, and you already know what to do. But then when I put myself in their shoes, I used to think like, yeah, I hated when people rushed me, and I hated when people wanted to give me top decisions. So it's also something that you have to balance between pace and quality of the decision, and sometimes really empower the team to do something that you don't agree. Right? It's very easy, or maybe not, but you can disagree and commit to your boss. It's way harder to disagree and commit to someone you are leading, because usually you feel like, oh, come on, I'll just stop down and they do what I want. So disagreeing and committing to someone, to a product manager's decision when you're a product leader, is way harder, and it was something that I definitely needed to learn.
Yeah, and we're always talking here about thoughtful disagreement as well, so we can always disagree in an intelligent manner, and that's honestly why we have PM Talks, because that's where we are going to disagree a lot, but learn a lot as well. And what I'm thinking actually is, we don't have, listening to all you were talking about, all of these paths that we must make to grow in the career, and so we can have better products and build the community, is how can I become a CPO? And I know that Guto has a lot to talk about it, so if you could please give us some intel on, well, everything, basically. Please give me a step-by-step.
Well, there's no better moment to become a CPO than now, first of all. I mean, I wouldn't say every day, but every week I get 2 requests at least. Oh, do you know somebody for a CPO position? So there's a lot of opportunity there. My answer usually for the entrepreneurs are, to the founders are, look, don't focus so much on finding a CPO, unless I think they really need, if they're really big. But I'm talking about earlier stage companies. Focus on getting a very strong team of senior product managers, or focus on a group product manager. And usually they need 2 or 3 group product managers. So that's a hint for everybody out there. I mean, I think a great way to become a CPO is to, first of all, join an amazing company like Frubana, learn the ropes with a team that is established earlier in your career, so you become a great product person, individual contributor. Then grow in Frubana or some other company that also has a very strong product culture, become a leader there. Then you're probably ready to venture out, not at Frubana, but if you're another company, you might be ready to venture out to a group product manager role. And there are many openings there. Usually, like a Series A company is still a smaller team, so it's a great point to become a group product manager and not like an overly complex operation. And once you establish yourself as a group product manager and you develop a track record of a couple of years, you're going to basically, your LinkedIn is going to be flooded with CPO opportunities. So there's not much you have to do there. I think get to become a very strong group product manager. And if you want to become a CPO, opportunities will abound. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Because that's one thing, and actually I think this is a great topic for another PM Talks, where we talk only about career, because it's a new career, and I see a lot of discussion about this, like, how should I start in product? How can I start? From which areas can I transition? So I think this is a good topic for a next PM Talks, because right now I think we're ready for audience questions. Guys, we do have one here that the rest of the team is helping me find in Slido, so here we go. High-growth startups tend to experiment and launch many products simultaneously and fast. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. At which point should we actually stop, slow down, and start improving or revalidate what we already have? Because we're at that point where scaling becomes dangerous, as everything is, well, tied up by, I don't know, dental floss. And well, everyone, welcome to join this one.
So I'm happy to jump in on this one. I think it's a matter of priorities a little bit of what Guto was explaining earlier. There are some aspects of the company that you can afford not having absolutely robust, and you can just simply continue testing on those. These are aspects that are either not critical to the core value of what you're promising to your customers, or they're simply like a side business or something on the side that is not that relevant. There are many core features as you scale that become significantly more important. So the focus needs to go, for example, for us, the focus needs to be on delivering the right experience, delivering the right product, delivering everything on time. Basically, this is the value that we have promised to our customers. What is not relevant is when we are testing smaller aspects of the business, like our fintech business or something that is still in experimental phases. That's where we have product managers that are creating new things and that they're moving super fast, but that they don't need to deliver super strong, super robust results, and that gives us a lot more speed. I think that would be kind of the way that I would see it, but I don't know, I invite others to chip in on when to go fast and when to go slow.
Always, but so ideally, you have an organization that you're thinking about the new things, the core things that are, the priorities for the business, as you mentioned. But also, you have to be every time you launch something new. Um, what are you going to shut down? That's hard. It's hard enough to get conviction in the organization to launch a new product. You go through all the motions of discovery, the testing, and finally you got conviction to, well, let's do this investment, and you launch it. And that's really hard. And it's harder to get results, to be successful consistently doing that. It's even harder to shut down products that are running. So, and it's really important to shut down products or features. Really think hard. Okay, what's not delivering value anymore? What was important in the past, but is not that important anymore? Because that saves time from maintenance, from cognitive attention from people, from your users. So I found that only very mature product teams are very consciously always pruning their offering so they can have a really focused offering. Everything basically, when you do that, everything that you launch that is new, first you can get there faster because you have to deal with less code, with less history around something that's not delivering value anymore. So you get faster by doing that, but you also get more effective. So I know it's kind of rhetoric and saying, "Oh, always," but you should strive to always be, where should I go faster, and how can I enable to be faster by shutting down some things that don't make sense anymore.
Yeah, lots of legacy as well. We see that happening, like old code that we may be able to shut down. And well,
And 2 seconds on Guto's point, that there's another point that I see there that depends on the business aspect, not just the product aspect. So when you're facing competition as a business, you need to move fast, and it depends on the nature of your business. If your business is a land grab business that once you have that territory or market share, it is hard for your competitors to take it away from you. At those points, it is important to move fast, even if you are not capable of moving with the perfect quality that you wish you had, because you can improve the quality once you have that market share. But it's true to that point that, yes, if you have an environment where quality is actually what matters and not grabbing the market, you're going to prioritize different. But yes, there are some businesses that are incredibly competitive, and you need to dive in and just grab that market share.
Team, one notice from the tech team: we should have a QR code somewhere here, so all those of you at home can ask away at Slido. Oh, there you go. Here it is. Yeah, here. And team, we do have one question here, Rafa. That one's for you. What makes you passionate about product? And I know you're one of the biggest names in Brazil talking about it and building content on it. But what makes you passionate? How did it start?
Well, I started as a copywriter. And as a copywriter, I was only seeing a very small part of the value delivery. So it was kind of, I felt trapped or maybe yeah, it wasn't that good. So I started expanding. I thought I used to work for advertising agencies. So I thought maybe I should become a planner, because planners see things from above and they usually participate of the whole process. Then I became a planner and it wasn't enough. So, well, you see how it goes. So eventually I decided to be an entrepreneur. So I started a software company with a friend, and we had a CMS that was very hard to compete with WordPress like 15 years ago. It was practically impossible. So of course we failed. But then I fell in love by doing products, and I decided that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So it's really been an amazing journey, and I think that you were able to master a few tools and really reach problem solution fit. It's something that works not only for product but also for your life. So I was always a fan of self-knowledge. I even take BuzzFeed tests to know which Harry Potter character I am. Like, I really like things that promise to explain me more about myself and about the reality. So I think product, it has a lot to do with self-knowledge, because you have to do a very good assessment of the situation and then come up with something to improve that situation. And it's very much like life. You also have to master a few concepts or a few pillars of the scientific knowledge, but sometimes you need to abandon scientific knowledge and go with your product sense, same as life. So I see a lot of things that in my career help me with my personal life, and I see a lot of things in my personal life that help me career. And the, the advantage of using repertoire of things that you like movies you like, books you like, uh, everything, arts, music, and you start identifying standards in your repertoire, and you use it then to enhance your life. And then when you see product, it's basically the same. You have this whole repertoire not only of your personal life but of business cases, product cases, stories of failure, stories of success. And then you also start to identifying standards on success cases, failure cases, and then you start to using that standards to somehow apply them into your product. So for me, that's why I love product, because it's very much like my personal life.
We're just saying that's a beautiful point of view, and it's a beautiful way of seeing product. I know I've discovered product recently, and I feel a little bit like that. It's just that, like, finding solutions to problems, well, many different problems, and it's been a fun ride. Guys, we do have another question here for Guto and actually Akemi. Would love to hear you both here. Is what have changed for you guys personally, and well, of course, Sarms and Farina, happy to chip in. Personally, while the environment of startups grew so much in the last few years in LATAM especially, how has that impacted your lives and your careers?
I can go first then. Cami, if you want to go first. Okay. I'll go. Okay. So I think the amazing thing that for me really impacted me personally, also professionally, but personally, is that by being part of this journey in the last 10 years of this ecosystem happening in Latin America, and the product management sort of a profession or role becoming a thing, was that because I had some previous experience, I was invited to talk to a lot of product people, help a lot of people to join into become product managers or grow into product management leadership roles. And that was amazing to, so I became a mentor, and that really changed the way I saw things. I had many ideas. I think as every product manager, you have very strong opinions about things. And I still do, but now my motto is strong opinions weakly held. So you have to have a point of view on, otherwise you're not really a product manager. But you got to be open to new information all the time, and that will challenge your point of view. In the next minute, if that makes sense, you better update your views. So I think that what has changed for me the most was the opportunity to be exposed to everything that's happening, and change my points of view on many things that impacted the way we did things at Elusetti, impacted the way I saw, product management, and as Farina said, as life as a whole.
In Akemi as well. Thanks, Guto. And honestly, I'm new to the field, so I'm actually getting just 2021 at this. But I've been loving to learn more about all of this with you guys. And I know Akemi also went through a lot through these past years.
Yeah, I think actually I think that's something really good that I think our market is super overwhelmed. Like it's there are a lot of opportunities for people, and for myself especially, like I think just like Guru said, people started coming to me to helping them to switch to a product job, or to help them finding like a product. How could they just start working with product and actually understanding what is product, because there are a lot of people that still don't know what we do. And I think I started like mentoring more people, and also mainly women, because there were a lot of women coming to me, because I don't know, like in 2016 I could say there were a lot of times that when I was a meeting like discussing product and technology, I was the only woman in the room. And until now it happens a lot that I'm the only woman in the room. But I really like to see that like this group of women's, like we are growing in the product role as well. And I've seen like Letty, good to know that you're like switched into to a product position, because I think that's super cool, and I'm really helped about it to see like more communities growing related to that, and also seeing that the people are like, how can I say, talking more about it, just like this PM talk here. Like I think it's a great opportunity for me to get to know more people, and also to share knowledge, and also to learn, because I learned a lot here with everyone as well. So I think it just opened my mind. And also something related to that is like, as we have so many opportunities, I could see myself like doing product with my life as well. So as I just tried a lot of things, like I do a lot of experimentation with the products and within companies. I do a lot of experimentation in my life as well, and that's one of the reasons why I try to like doing like I'm being like entrepreneur right now, because I know that I could test and try and experiment just like I did with like within the companies.
Yeah, and on that topic, you should all get to know Evolua, which is Akemi's platform to empower women and women in product as well. And team, we do have time for one last question, and we have one here that I think it's great for all of us and has everything to do with everything we've been talking about, that is growing teams. What's the best way to develop a team of missionaries and not mercenaries? Because we know growing teams is hard, and we'd love to hear everyone's intake on this one.
Okay, then I'll take this one. Missionaries and mercenaries is a topic that we discuss internally all the time, because I always worry, in early stage startups, you always want to have missionaries, especially because you need a few only. So because you need such few of them, you need to make sure that they are committed with what you want to accomplish, and not just the how or the path, or they're going to be with you for the next few months. You want them to be with you for a long time. So the founder's mission and vision needs to be in the DNA of all the product managers, and I think that's essential. What we do here is we interview for missionaries versus mercenaries, primarily asking about their past, understanding what is it that motivates them, and what aspects of our mission are actually resonate with the actions that they have taken in the past. For example, we care about the well-being of our community, of the farmers and producers that are working with us. We care about the well-being of our drivers. We care, obviously, about our customers, that are restaurants that have a really tough business. So we look for people that have taken action in their lives about what they believe in, and that what they believe in matches what we do. That's kind of one aspect. And the second one is that they're willing to take risks, especially if you're an early stage startup. It is very hard to just offer to everybody all the benefits and everything that a large Google would offer. So what we do is we want to make sure that what what we sell to them is purpose. That when they're with us, purpose is what's keeping them going, and that's what really keeps us really, really happy, as opposed to, I don't know, trying to buy with salaries and compensation and benefits and everything. That should be part of the package, but it cannot be the only reason why people join your team. So we look for mission, we look for alignment in their values versus our values, and I don't know, we'd love to hear other opinions, but this is super, super important to us. And as we grow, it's harder to find more and more missionaries at the scale that we're hiring. So it becomes harder, but we keep doing it. We're committed to this.
And yeah, I know you've all been talking about building businesses. I'd love to hear all of your intakes on this one, because it's always a big part of the business. Farina, please.
Thanks. It's harder when we are all online. I don't want to interrupt, but I can start. As I said, I'm a great fan of self-knowledge. So usually I look for self-knowledge for people who somehow figured out what they want to do with their lives. So for me, it's pretty simple. It was always simple. Since I was a kid, I wanted to be a father, and I wanted to do something with education. I felt that I was a teacher somehow. So when I'm sharing knowledge, I feel like I'm fulfilling my life's mission. I know it's very hard for someone at its 20s or 30s, at 20s especially, to have figured out what they want to do with their lives. So I like to just at least look for principles, right? Because principles usually don't change that much. Call it whatever name you want. If you don't want to call it principles, call it values, call it, well, pillars, call it, well, I tend to look for the question I'm trying to answer, and that I cannot ask directly, is, does this person have pillars to sustain her life, right? So I look for the immutable part of the person. So I usually tend to ask questions about things the person has been doing for a lot of time in her life. I ask for questions of long personal initiatives, or maybe a few questions about dreams, about what you want to accomplish. And I tend to like people with more self-knowledge, because these are the people who will figure out their purpose on life. And if you haven't figured out your purpose on life, chances are that you will change your mind a lot. So even if you don't want to be a mercenary, you will eventually become a mercenary, not because of money, but because you don't know what you want. And you change your mind a lot of times. So it goes way beyond, oh, I don't hire people who only spend 6 months at a company for 3 times. It's more than that. You have to see if that person relies on something that seems like immutable, or something that will last for a long time in their period, in their life. And then you can compare if this that the person wants has to do with your mission. It's a lot hard, but I really love asking this really philosophical questions, because again, if I'm going to lead a person, I want to also become a friend. I have a hard time leading people that I can't relate as a friend at some level. So the interview is also for me to see, okay, can I relate to that person? Can I lead her? But she could be an awesome person, but maybe not for my team, maybe not for my style of leadership. So these are the things I look for during an interview.
As in how to take care not to be biased as well. So it's an art more than a science. And I don't know if Guto or Kemi would like to jump in on this one as well.
Yeah, if I may, I think we obviously want missionaries, not mercenaries, but it's really hard to pinpoint, and it's we gotta be careful not to judge. So I think what I look for is it builds on what Farina was saying and what Andres was saying. But has this person demonstrated seeking a purpose in her career or in life? And those are signals. Is this person playing infinite games instead of transactional games, short-term games? Um, so I don't usually expect the person to be completely 100% aligned with the mission of the specific company when I was at Elusacci, because Elusacci is a market that has a very specific public, and I couldn't expect that everybody would be completely aligned with that mission, but I would want the signs and would expect the person, once we hired with the notion of that, is a person that is principled, that seeks purpose, that plays infinite games, that values relationships over transactions, that those things we can somewhat objectively evaluate. But once the person is in the company, yes, it is our job as leaders to create a culture that people will fall in love with the mission, and they will fall in love with the purpose. Absolutely. But I tend to think, perhaps I'm a bit older. I don't know. I tend to think that people will fall in love with the mission, but I would seek those principles from the beginning, that purpose, infinite games, relationship based. And then it's my job and a job of the leaders to make sure that everybody falls in love with the mission. Otherwise, it's our failure, it's not theirs.
Excellent point. We were just nodding on and on and on and on. And I don't know if Akemi would like to add something to this one as well, or we
Yeah.
could be looking into.
Yeah, I do. Actually, I agree a lot with what Farina said. Like, I always look for personal knowledge, like self-knowledge, and I really like to understand, like, what gets you up in the morning. Like, I always ask people like that, and also I ask what someone who doesn't like you would say about you, and something like that, because I get to know more or less what are like the pros and also the cons related to the person, and we kind of can value if the person it's like has a fit with the company culture. Also, something that I always like to understand is like the person's personal values, and to check if the personal values matches with the company's value. Because if we know that they are not like so similar, or they are like totally the opposite, probably it's not gonna work. And besides that, at least the person needs to, how can I say, understand the company's purpose, and also seek for that purpose as well. Maybe that cannot be the person's purpose, but at least she needs to identify with it. Otherwise, like, maybe she will be motivated at the beginning, but after a while, maybe the person can become like a mercenary and so on.
Yeah, and I think it all comes down to self-knowledge. That's what we've been talking all through this charla, and I do have some learnings from today that I'd love to share, the highlights from this conversation. I think the biggest one by far so far, I think it's self-knowledge, and you need to know that we need to know ourselves, because, well, the first topic that we talked about is, well, companies change from early stage to growth stage. And how do we change? Well, we need to know that our role is going to change as well, but we need to know our strengths always, because that's where we're going to be able to add more value to the company and decide, well, if I want to if I want to grow into a managing position and people managing position, or if I want to keep on a specialist side. So that comes all from self-knowledge. We need to know our strengths. Then we talked a little bit about experimenting, and one thing it becomes clear is that our role is always going to be to de-risk. It doesn't matter the size of the company. We can't get lazy. If we're working at a gigantic company that Frubana will be in a few years, we always have to de-risk, and that's a role. It doesn't matter industry. It doesn't matter the size of the company. And we touched base on the third point, where was exactly this transitioning from a PM to a product leader. And here, that's it. I think it has everything to do with what we've been talking about, culture and the leadership team, the leadership role in all of this, that it's actually make sure that we pass on culture and to understand if we're up to it, if that's something we'd like. And we've been talking about it yesterday as well, and we're just talking how sometimes we feel this pressure to go into these managing roles, and maybe we just want to be specialists and do something product, a lot of product, and really well. And yeah, I think those are the highlights from my side. I know, Sarms, if you'd like to add on to this, or in closing statements.
Leti, thank you so much. This is awesome. And thank you for the closing statements. I actually agree with all of this. Very good lessons learned. I think the key behind PM Talks is the way that we do it internally, is that we don't have all the answers. I think everybody has little pieces of the puzzle, and we all put them together when we share our mistakes, when we share our lessons learned, when we share our stories from previous lives. And there's no way to really come up with all of this knowledge without the help of everybody. And everybody that is watching this, I would imagine all of you have your stories that build your product experience, your product background, and where you're going. So really, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lechi. Thank you, Guto. Thank you, Rafa. Thank you, Akemi. This has been really amazing. Thank you for the questions that we received. So we're super excited. Thank you for the team that helped us organize all of this. So it's been an amazing event. I think I'm taking a lot of lessons learned. I hope everybody's taking a little piece of either I like those answers or I didn't like those answers. I like those questions, and this is what I'm taking, and I'm gonna like bounce back. Please send us comments and anything that you find it relevant for the community. What we really need is more product managers in Latin America. More product managers for every company. More product managers will give us more founders. More founders will give us better companies. So this is the whole point of what we're doing right now, is really to push the ecosystem of technology businesses in Latin America, and to push this discipline of product management that I believe is fairly new in Latin America, and we just need more conversations. Some answers will be right, some will be wrong. What we need is having the conversation and really getting deep into how do we all get this better. So thanks, everybody. Little publicity announcement. Yeah. Frubana is hiring product managers. We're going to share with you a QR code or a link for those that are remote with the positions that we have open in Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, you name it. So we're super excited. Thank you very much for participating in this. And it's been a great first public version of PM Talks. Hopefully we'll have many more of these. So thank you and goodbye.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone at home as well. It's been great, and stay tuned. See you soon. We're going to have multiple of these ones this year. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Rafa, Kemi, Guto, and thank you to everyone here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.